Hey everyone, you are gathered together for, believe it or not, it is week 7 of this series through 1 Peter. We only have one more week to go. As you gather around today and as you begin to discuss chapter 4 of 1 Peter and break down some of the things that we talked about in the sermon, you're not going to discover really that he's giving us new information. Really what he's doing is bringing together so much of what we've already covered right before he begins to introduce a little bit new information in the next chapter, but of course we're going to cover that next week. As you gather around today, as you guys talk and enjoy your time together, I want to give you a couple of things that I think could be very beneficial to you individually and to you as a group for you to discuss together. Number one, maybe you just want to talk about where you have experienced either mistreatment or difficult situations or abuse or persecution. Maybe you have experienced that, maybe you haven't. But have you experienced anything like that because of your allegiance to Jesus? Because of your faith in Jesus. I know that there are folks in our church who they absolutely have experienced that sort of thing. Maybe not everybody has experienced that sort of thing. Fortunately, we live in a society, we live in a country where that sort of thing is very, very far removed from us. It's nothing like what Peter was experiencing and what those Christians in the first century were experiencing, and yet we might experience something. Maybe talk about that. Maybe talk about how you responded to that, what you learned. Maybe talk about ways that you can encourage each other. And then there's something else that I would really encourage you to talk about. And I'm thinking about this. It comes from a well-known pastor. He once said, hurt people hurt people. And the truth behind that is profound, isn't it? That when we experience hurt, sometimes we just have a tendency to take it out on other people. And typically the targets of convenience are those who are closest to us, the ones who we want to hurt the least, and yet those are the ones who we sometimes end up hurting the most. And I think that might be why Peter spent so much time in chapter 4 talking about the importance of coming together and loving each other well. As a matter of fact, he gave us 4 different things that we should do to really live out this victory that we've been given in Jesus. I shared this in the sermon. It's really distilled down in these 4 points I got from a woman named Karen Jobes. She's a brilliant Bible scholar and teacher, and she wrote a really helpful commentary on 1 Peter, but she broke it down this way, and it's really just a summary of what Peter shares with us. Number one, we're going to pray together. And I want to encourage you, not just individually, but as a group, spend precious time praying together for each other, with each other. I don't know what your experience has been like, but I've found so much encouragement listening to other people pray. On a regular basis, I'm in a group of other people. We're working through something and we pray together at the beginning of our meetings. And that is the favorite time of that meeting for me, listening to other people pray. The second thing that we're told to do is really persist in love for one another. And Peter uses an expression that love covers a multitude of sins. And I think there's a variety of implications and nuances to that. But not least of which is this, is that when we choose to love each other, that often means, you know what, I'm just going to overlook this sin or this failure in your life, and I'm not going to judge you, but I'm just going to love you. And so love each other, persist in that. The third thing is to practice hospitality. That's part of what allows your small group to meet, isn't it? That at least somebody is participating and being a gracious host and practicing the gift of hospitality. But continue to do that for each other. I want our church to be a church that we meet just as much, if not more so, in our homes with each other as we do in our large building together. We should be a church. We should be a people who love getting together, who love meeting around living rooms and meeting around dinner tables together. It's a precious part. It's a serious part of Christian community. It's indispensable. And lastly, use the gifts that you've received to serve one another. And so those are the 4 things. We're going to pray. We're going to love, we're going to practice hospitality, and we're going to use the gifts that we have to serve one another. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Spend some time talking about maybe how as a group you can take your next steps in those 4 things together, and I'll see you next week.